cases absolutely false. This lake project is about development and money under the disguise of Osceola's water need. My husband and I own our little piece of our American dream, and they won't take it away without a fight. But this is important for all citizens of Iowa, not just us affected in Clarke County. If this project is allowed in Clarke County and an end run around the current eminent domain laws is accomplished, which county is next? Which landowner? It may be you. Thank you.
How many years have you been in your property?
18.
My name is Kathy Kelly, Kathy Kelly. My husband and I are landowners affected by this proposed lake. Nearly 1/2 of our 40-acre acreage and most of our oak and hickory timber is slated for acquisition by the local Reservoir Commission. They want to build a recreation water source lake. The people of Iowa, through their elected representatives, spoke in a special session last summer with overwhelming, conclusive clarity and unity. They voted successfully with margins of 90-8 in the House and 41-8 in the Senate to override Governor Vilsack's veto of H.F. 2351. This bill was written to restrict the use of eminent domain for recreation-sized water source reservoirs, among other things. Cindy read to you the mission statement of our local Clarke County Reservoir Commission that was entered in the August 2004 minutes. The local CCR is being advised, aided, and abetted by the planning staff of the NRCS and various other special interests and lobbyists to circumvent those very restrictions to the use of eminent domain that the people of Iowa overwhelmingly supported. As recently as December 2004, in a water supply open house, the NRCS distributed a chart of preliminary study results explaining that for water source only, a 359-acre pool surface area would provide the targeted 3 million gallons a day, but for water source plus recreation, an 834-acre pool surface area would be designed. Now, they are trying to convince us that those preliminary results were not accurate and that a 971-acre lake is now required. Shortly after the override of Governor Vilsack's veto last summer, the NRCS announced in a November 2006 meeting of the CCRC that they had adopted the DNR's 2003 10-state standards for water reservoirs. Had they not been abiding by those standards previously? Or is this the first lake the NRCS has designed in Iowa? No. They brought this forth as a way of circumventing the new eminent domain restrictions. They are projecting a water need of ridiculous proportions for current needs and future growth on the backs of the landowners and farmers, employing the use of a 1 in 50-year drought standard to greatly exaggerate the needed pool surface acres. Although Osceola Waterworks currently owns and operates a working water source reservoir with allowable drawdown of 1.5 million gallons a day, they persist in seeking a new reservoir with a 3 million gallon a day output and refuse to adequately respond to the question of why they don't count the present reservoir's output. Rather than find a way to utilize the existing lake's 1.5 million gallons a day output and seek only an additional water source with capacity to provide the balance of their projected need, the commissioners of the CCRC, in cahoots with the NRCS, continue to inflate the size of the lake so that after the eminent domain furor subsides, they can capitalize on future economic development and recreation. Now, to multiply their duplicity, the CCRC has sought in a September 25th special election to jumpstart their lake project by converting a lapsing 1% local option sales tax, instigated to pay specifically for a law enforcement center, into a blank check to be used by them and their sponsoring organizations in the amount of $1 million+ annually. The wording on the ballot is vague, so vague that it allows the tax to be collected until all debt incurred to design, construct, equip, and maintain the Clarke County Water Reservoir and related infrastructure is fully paid. All that is required of them from the point of passage of this referendum to keep their money faucet open is to stay in debt. 70% of the landowners involved with this reservoir are unwilling sellers. They will take the seizure of their lands and homes to litigation if this 1% local option sales tax referendum passes. And the CCRC begins to acquire land as early as January 2008. If there is a true water shortage emergency looming on the immediate horizon, why would the CCRC be willing to wait the years this lake will be stalled by litigation, while cost projections double, instead of finding a realistic solution for more water now? Simply because it's a large, multi-purpose recreation/water source lake they want, with the potential for economic development, built on the backs and violated property rights of a few. But in the end, all Iowa suffers, because property rights all over this nation will begin the slippery slope right down into the bottom of this lake, along with we landowners' homes and lands. I don't believe it will ever be right to build this reservoir as long as other prudent and feasible alternatives are available, even in the unlikelihood that those alternatives really cost more than the final numbers of this proposed lake. And that includes even if those other feasible alternatives are less desirable to the special interests and governmental bodies that are represented by the CCRC. Our immediate community action should be to vote no in Clarke County's September 25th referendum. And our next action as citizens of this state of Iowa should be to wholeheartedly support a grassroots coalition to uphold individual property rights all over this state against the indiscriminate onslaught of development. As voiced in our daughter's letter to the editor and to the residents of Clarke County, how dare you think that because something may bring good things, that it is a good and right thing to do? Can anyone honestly say that to seize people's lands and homes for their purposes is a good and right thing to do? Thank you.
My name is Deborah Robbins, D-O-E-G,
Yep.
R-O-B-I-N-S.
Doug.
Yes. I'm a landowner in Clarke County, just not land in the proposed lake area project. My land will, however, be affected in many different ways. This was a cause my mother was very passionate about, and I have taken up where she has left off. She passed away a little over 2 years ago. She was very involved in this fight because she and my father had land in the projected lake area. Now my father is involved in this fight, along with me, my family, with the backing of my sister and brother and their families. Dad still has land in the proposed lake project that he will lose. It is still too early to tell just how much of his land will be taken. This is the land that I have hunted on since I was a kid, and the land that my nieces and nephews and sons have hunted and played on. This land is also the land I have farmed for the last 31 years. I have friends and neighbors who will either lose their home, way of life, or everything to the Clarke County Lake Project. It is easy to see why my mom felt the need to fight this type of cause, when you see the worry and hurt on their faces and eyes. An NRCS employee told local officials in July 2006, right after the passage of the eminent domain bill, to not let new legislation affect their previously made plans for the lake. This is telling Iowa citizens that there is little respect for the new eminent domain bill. I urge all Iowa citizens to contact the head of the NRCS and ask if it is standard procedure to tell their clients to break the law. On September 25th, the citizens of Clarke County will go to the polls to determine if they want to continue a sales tax that was promised by local officials to sunset after the new law enforcement center was paid off. Now local officials want to extend that tax indefinitely to pay for a $40 million project from a tax that will only generate $800,000 a year. Lake promoters have gone to extreme measures to try to get this tax passed, going so far as to use scare tactics such as threatening to raise property taxes and to raise water rates, and even going so far as destroying signs that encourage citizens to vote no on the tax.